Hi, this is Robert of MayflowerBookshop.com, and I just went for a little swim. It's 90 degrees in summer in Michigan, but what bothered me through the whole swim, I kept letting it go, of course, and getting into spiritual mindfulness, virtue mind stream, but it kept coming to me how many people are afraid. They live in fear, and they have conspiracy and fear, and as I said elsewhere, the ultimate conspiracy theory is that the human heart hasn't fully flowered with intelligence and loving kindness, with its artistic gift for the world. The human heart hasn't fully given of itself so that it can receive what the world has for you, for me. And fear is a tough one because you don't even know what you're afraid of sometimes. Or you think you're afraid of something or somebody, and that person or that thing is another suffering, striving, aspiring creature or thing in samsara, in the material world, wishing that its inner glow, its inner spark could fully flower, fully give itself to it's by giving. The flower gives itself. It roots in darkness and earth and quiet and stillness, and then it flowers in the sun and gives itself to the whole earth. It just gives up its fragrance, My first spiritual guide or mentor or maybe teacher, I don't know. My first spiritual friend, I was 20 something and he was in his 80s. And he told me that when the student is ready, not only does a teacher appear, but that really when the student is ready, the teaching is everywhere. The teacher and the teaching is everywhere you look, So fear, he also said that where there's love, there is no fear. And that wherever there's fear, one has to inquire that there's a lack of understanding or love, When we understand how the tree works or how the bug's trying to escape us at our house that we're trying to capture and throw outside or we're trying to kill or whatever, some ant, some fly, some mosquito, something that bugs us, some person that bugs us, whatever, everything wishes it could live. And pollution is misappropriated energy that went to the wrong place, and now it's pollution, but in the right place, it could be flowering or it could be healthy. Fear, according to a wonderful friend of mine for many years, a Tibetan Buddhist Lama in Ann Arbor, he said that fear is when we cling to the perishables. We fear when we know that something's not going to last, and we cling to this thing or person or situation because we're trying to make something permanent happen. The Dalai Lama and others, Theosophical friends, they say that everything's impermanent. And Goethe said we must rediscover ourselves and each other each day. Each day we must be born anew. The father schools are, today's a good day to die like the Native American Indian, or you must die daily like St. Paul of the Christian Catholic thing said. But they didn't mention you have to be born again daily. And when it comes to Hermes or Dionysius, it's thrice born Hermes, thrice greatest Trismegistus, the Trinity, that we're trying to awaken our thinking, feeling, and willing, arising from our physical, emotional, mental. We're trying to awaken our spirit, soul, body in our thinking, feeling, and willing. So fear. Fear is that we're either going to lose something or lose ourselves, that we're not going to be able to keep solid and grounded. And it's a clinging to the perishables. It's a lack of love and understanding. And it's a call for compassion. Whenever we fear, we want to have compassion for ourselves who try so hard and wish we could survive so we could give our gift, and compassion for whatever and whoever we fear. When we really look at what we fear, or we really look at ourselves, everything's impermanent and perishable, and yet there's something inside of us that keeps looking again, trying to grow. There's something that even as we die, I think, as we die, and we do die, there'll be some part of us that looks again. And just like the materialist will tell you that energy never dies, it just changes shape, I say that the mind is a mind stream continuum. There's a mind stream continuum that's not sense-bound thinking, that lives in the beatific awakening and perception of our heart. The heart as a single, as a fourth eye. The heart is the fourth eye. The third eye is in your forehead, and you can get to nirvana. You can get to heaven. You can get to Deva Chan, Deva being angel, Chan, the land of angels. You can do that. You can do it in a lot of ways. Helping others, charity. But to be free, to be really free, where we can be liberated, to never have to go into suffering and these trying situations that bring us increased desire and fear. It takes a once removed vantage point that only stillness can bring about, what the Tibetans call the right view of emptiness. The Christians tried for it with not I, but the Christ within me, borrowing the term Christ from the ancient pagans, from the ancient Greeks, the Christos, the Christos, the Krishna, the Christos, who struggles with trials and tribulations, becoming the enlightened one of the priest. So anyway, I didn't mean to be poetic on you or too mystical, because it takes a long time to explain these things. The whole game of spirituality is that you're trying to learn the vocabulary of the architectural becoming of your soul mind awareness, of your heart mind, which I talk about when I gave other talks on Foundation Stone of Meditations, Foundation Stone of Rudolf Steiner, and Blavatsky's Voice of the Silence, and this relationship of the head and heart, and how the breath, when you let go of your breath and take a deep breath in and empty all your perceptions in your heart and hold still in your heart, trying to hold all of us, trying to have compassion for yourself, being still enough to hear something new, something that will be new and renew you. Here, all things being equal, take the new way, the renewing way. So fear is a definite sign. Fear will freeze you. It turns you into stone in a way. It inhibits. Fear just freezes the openness of the nervous system and heart. There's a lot to be said for the right understanding of the chakras as 7 virtues, and that the primary one is the middle one, the heart. The heart is the middle way between the upper and lower third, between the 3 chakras above and below, as above, so below. The heart that spells the word earth, is the ground of being and is the 3rd ear. It's really the 4th eye in a way, but it's a single ear that you can hear the sound of music. And the breath weaves the head and heart together. We breathe in, wishing for enlightenment. We breathe out, blessing the world. But when you breathe in, this world's so tough, make sure that you look for the stillness, and you can be the stillness that can imagine and possibly be inspired and intuit the way to go. The way to go that's going to make this whole world better, starting with me and you. That's how it works. You can't give up yourself unless you have a self to give up. How can you be selfless unless you have a self to be less of? So the first step is finding the true nature of the self, and that is to quiet down the outer self for the inner self. The true spiritual person kind of blames themselves so they can do something about it. They can work on themselves. The crass materialist, not the good materialist who honors the last 7 and next 7 generations and can dispel the illusion by seeing the thinking in things, where things come from and where they're going, and do they hurt or hinder or help the earth, and all those things. There's a difficult, bad so-called spiritual spirituality, and that's when people disappear and escape in their spirituality. I mean, they'll listen to the words on a tape or a faraway place or in a church, love one another. But in practice, it's more difficult to do. We can love somebody who's far away. We can love the ideal of Paris and the stars and a heaven world and London and New York and LA and Moscow or whatever. It's easy to love gardens that are in pictures far away or imaginations far away. But loving the people close to us, and so that's why meditation can give you a break from yourself. The stillness is like a freedom from the self and others, freedom from others. We need that once a day. And then we need to engage the world so that we can kind of rub off our rough edges, A lot of times we don't know where the limits are until we go beyond them or make a mistake. It's not bad to make a mistake, it's bad not to learn from it. And to the degree that we have fear, it freezes us from learning. And to a degree we have desire, we're obsessed with something we can get that we think will make us happy. And of course, Buddha's nothing lasts, and look at all the things we did manage to get, and then we wanted more or less. It's like the Grimm's fairy tales, and the 3 wishes are granted. Physical, emotional, mental, thinking, feeling, and willing. We get to somehow satisfy those. And then, but when we look around the world, how happy can we be if the whole world suffers so miserably? And again, it's not bad to suffer if it's right suffering, and we're learning and growing from it. So, where there's fear, there is no love. Buddha talked about desire and its shadow, fear, as being the cause of all suffering, and that the whole existence of the world is a nature of suffering to purify, illuminate, educate, enlighten, and reunite with the good, true, and beautiful. That happiness was this kind of real gold and wealth, and happiness is this relationship of our feelings and our thinking to these spiritual principles. There's some kind of dream that can hold us all. Instead of dividing to conquer, we unite to resist. Here, everything is possible, but barely anything is permitted. Each of us is kind of on our own, and yet we're completely together. It's a paradox. Anything we do affects the whole world, and the whole world affects us. So there is a way to meditate and get beyond ourselves into a deep stillness that's our most holiest silence within us, holiest pure potential within us. Silence is almost like the door to God, or the door to the deity, or the door to the higher self or virtue self. And we can get to a place that's beyond, I was friends with Marianne Woodman, who wrote Leaving the Father's House, among other books. And her thing is that which we don't make conscious, that which moves us and moves in us that we don't make conscious, will become our fate. I added, and bad karma, perhaps. So it behooves us to try to become awakened to the deeper stillness that has yet to speak within our own heart. And this is a divine romance. I know another person who just loves her cats. She goes to work and goes home and loves her cats. And she hasn't quite figured out her faux garden for this life. But she, like a lot of other people I know who love their dog or love their garden or love their parents or love their lover or whatever, it gives you a taste of what love is, and it allows you to reach out and love in new ways the whole world around you. We have to start somewhere. We can start small, or we can start big. But eventually we find that middle place. Like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, you're trying to find that perfect middle place between extremes, between the interlaced triangles of Solomon's seal and the mystical ancient Jewish Kabbalah. We're trying to find that point at the center of the interlaced triangles, the point at the center between the cross of vertical and horizontal spirit and matter, awaken the rose of the soul. We need to fall in love with something. And I tell you, my friends, you might try to tell me that there is no love in your life. I ask you, who is it in you that knows there's no love? You need to talk to that person, because if they know there's no love here, they must know what love is to know it's not here. So at the very, very minimum, we can talk to the person that knows love's not here, that beauty isn't here, that God isn't here, that the goddess isn't here, the virtues. We can talk to that person, and we can be still and learn. I think basically simply that fear is a lack of love. And it's somehow, one gets electrified and clings to some atavistic form, some false permanence, some false residence. But then again, a lot of our problems, they can be resolved by dealing with them, but they can also be resolved in a Zen-like way by finding something more beautiful, finding something that will eat us up in a beautiful way, something to inspire and spark us. When we really see what it is, we'll forget what it's not. When one all of a sudden, for instance, a person who's worried about money, and all of a sudden they come into millions of dollars, they don't worry about money anymore. Somebody doesn't have love, and all of a sudden they find their soulmate, and it lasts the rest of their life, or 20 years, or 10 years. But for a time being, they don't think about that anymore, you know? I think that it's quite an art that when difficult things happen, that we can pray or meditate, contemplate, may all my bad karma burn off so that I never have to go through this again, and I can grow from this. And we have compassion for everyone, even the enemy. Love your enemies was something that Jesus said that few follow. The real Christians follow the Sermon on the Mount. Everybody's a brother and sister. Job in the Old Testament, God says, "Where is your brother?" Cain says, "Who am I, my brother's keeper?" Well, yeah, but he'd already been in trouble for... So you can see we need to invoke something of love. And I think that reading the several different schools, major schools of spiritual science, from Tibetan Buddhism, Neoplatonism, Hermetic, Steiner, Blavatsky, Manly Haw, Yoga, Hinduism, there's a lot of them. The mystical Kabbalah of the ancient Sefer Yetzirah, the Chaldean Babylonian Book of Numbers. I mean, there's a lot of things to study, and if you really take a good look at it, you're going to see that there are unique different ways of getting us home again. And, excuse me, I'm walking around here on the beach talking. So I think that the way that I'm approaching it is that if you don't know what to do, try studying these several schools of spiritual thinking and bring that into your radical stillness and silence for your 3 to 5 minute meditation a day. If you only meditate for 3 to 5 minutes a day, but every day, I can almost guarantee it'll work. That you'll get some great insights, and you won't have to be always pressing down hard on your truck to go in a new direction. So we bring our experiences and the experiences of the people around us, we filter them through these spiritual teachings into our silence. And it's like cooking. You're cooking for the soul. You eventually find your song. So fear is clinging to the perishables. And fear is like, it's a word F and ear. I think it's like you're listening to the wrong freaking ear. You want to listen with your heart. You want to listen either with 2 ears. That everybody has. There's 2 stories to every story. There's 2 sides. You want to listen with 2 ears to spiritual and material facts, or you want to listen with 1 ear, with your heart, how we can all eventually come together now. So I hope you appreciate what I'm trying to tell you, and that I hope you aren't just blowing your horn for nothing. If people would really change if we would blow our horn, maybe it would be good. But with that horn, That horn is a sign that we should wish compassion to whoever's suffering on the street out there, and that we should quickly get about our Father's business. When you go about your Father's business, it's that you're trying to get in touch with the oneness and the stillness. And at the end, in Christianity, at the end, in the spiritual, mystical Christianity, at the end, Jesus is on the cross and he says, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. And he looks down at John and Mary and he says, Mother, behold your son, and son, behold your mother. I mean, this is a new dispensation of the Holy Spirit and the feminine Sophia. Sophia is the wisdom of the worlds. And the Father is the principle of oneness and radical silence of self, so we can see something bigger. And the Christos of the Greeks, and the Hermes and the Mithras and the Apollo and, the Krishna, the Christ, this is like the universal understanding that comes between the great mother and father of everything and nothing. Fear, there is no fear outside of not living up to your higher self. There's no shame or blame other than not living up to your higher self. And there is no God or love unless we prove it by the way we live. It's not bad to make a mistake, but you have to get up again and try again. So that is my message about fear. And if you have too many fears, go help people that are way worse off than you. If you have too many sufferings, go help people who are way less fortunate than you. And check out how many people are still happier than we are, and they have so much less. So sometimes fear can come from thinking of these false things we're supposed to be in life, and that we can't really just be our humble little flower, or humble little ground, or humble green, dreaming of flowering. We can't be the sun shining on everyone. So may love find you. May love awaken in you. May love heal you and profoundly spark you to go on. Bless your heart. This is Robert of MayflowerBookshop.com sharing